Isang paalaala, ang susunod na kabanata ay naglalaman ng mga salita at pahayag na maaaring magdulot ng takot, pangamba at pagkabahala sa mga nakikinig, lalo na sa mas nakababatang gulang. Huwag magpatuloy kung kinakailangan.
Welcome to episode 295. Ako po si Earl, ang inyong campmaster. At ito, ang Santelmo Society segment ng Philippine Campfire Stories. Ang Santelmo Society ay ang listener's story segment ng ating show kung saan babasahin ko ang mga kwento mula mismo sa ating mga tagapakinig. I still get random questions on how to submit those stories, and in case you don't know, you can record your stories or write them and send me an email to campfirestoriesph@gmail.com. I'm proud to say na nasa September na po ako this year at feeling ko mauubos ko naman na yung pila ng submissions. Salamat sa lahat ng mga nagpadala at magpapadala pa ng kanilang mga kwento. With that out of the way, ang una nating kwento ay mula kay Damien. Active si Damien sa group chat ng Philippine Campfire Stories sa Facebook. Kaya kung gusto nyo kaming makakwentuhan doon ay i-click lang ang group chat invite na matatagpuan sa episode details. Tara, let's listen to Damien's story. It was Thursday afternoon, unusually hotter for September. I found myself driving down the road heading to my second office to meet with my team. I pulled up to the building, parked, and badged in. Headed to my office, and I quickly set my bag down and put on protective gear, eager to complete my last task for today. I started heading towards the testing room, a makeshift, walled-off area inside a warehouse, where my team tests different materials to determine their composition. Strewn about a various equipment, gauges, and tools, I walked in and was greeted by Charles, one of my technicians. Charles is an older gentleman, closer to retirement age, an athlete in his youth, and has lived about 1,000 lives once. The type of guy who has seen it all and dealt with it all, yet he still retained his childlike humor and light-hearted personality. You can tell from a few minutes of conversation that despite him joking around in a clean, dad-like way every other sentence, he is dropping some real nuggets of knowledge. A real mix of chill and no bullshit. Charles is my go-to guy whenever I want a genuine conversation. "Hey, Damien," he says in a tone that is half teasing, half sarcastic, and genuinely glad to see you. I replied, "What's happening, Charles? How are we doing?" Being this is my second team that I handle, I don't always see them every day. But I make it a point to drop by in person at least every other day, on top of us staying in touch through emails and messaging apps. Charles gives me a quick rundown of how we're doing with the day's workload, while I grab an office chair and sit down beside where he's set up working. From there, the conversation flows from one topic to another. Charles is the type of man that is very easy to talk to. It doesn't matter the gap in age between myself and him. We never run out of things to talk about and connect on. He tells me funny anecdotes from his childhood in Minnesota, his daughter who goes to college in Florida, his relatives, what kitchen appliances he had to replace because of how old they were, and most importantly, Charles loves talking about his dogs. He has 3 greyhound dogs, all lean muscle, gorgeous, and well taken care of dogs. You can tell by how he talks about them that they mean the world to him. He shows me pictures of them every time we catch up. Naturally, the topic shifts to plans for the weekend. "You got anything planned for the weekend?" he asks me. I reply, "Oh well, I'm supposed to go to the range to try out my new rifle that I just picked up." We talk about firearms, ammo, and his rifle that he inherited from his father. Naturally, as he always does, Charles manages to find a way to steer the conversation towards dogs. And that's when he tells me of his former neighbor named Harvey. I used to have this neighbor, Harvey, you know, the guy owned about 200 guns with ammo to match. One day, a bunch of kids blew up one of our neighbor's mailbox, and my wife and I had to stop him from shooting at the kids. The kids saw him come out and pull out a shotgun, and they got in their car and gunned it. I chuckled at this. But he was a cool guy. One of my dogs really loved playing with him. He dropped by every day to talk and play with my dogs. He always kept a big jar of treats and would play with my dogs and give him treats afterwards. My dogs knew every time he was visiting. Once they sensed he's pulling up our driveway, they would go crazy and want to go out. Loved? I asked in a confused tone. Yeah, he passed away a while back. He quickly replied. The paramedics say he had 3 heart attacks on his driveway. I think it was Sunday morning when it happened. My wife and her sister were supposed to go see him sing in a choir or something, he says, still in a half-joking manner. His tone gets more serious all of a sudden. You know what's funny? That was a Sunday, and by, I think, Tuesday, he was gone. For some reason, that Tuesday night, my female, referring to one of his dogs, went crazy and just won't stop. She kept jumping up and down, pacing and running around all over the place like how she would get if she wanted to go outside. Eventually, I had enough at around 3 a.m. and I went out with her. She ran around the backyard like she was seeing something or playing with someone I couldn't see. Charles paused before continuing with the rest. Later on, we found that around the same time is when Harvey died. It was like he came back to play with my dogs one last time before, passing on. My dog did finally quiet down for the rest of the night after playing around outside. Occasionally, my dogs would still get excited, like how they would get if they sensed Harvey pulling up our driveway to visit, and I would tell them, "Oh, you think that's Harvey, huh? He's not coming back." My jaw dropped and immediately got goosebumps when he finished with the whole story. What? That was the only thing I could muster to say in response. As someone in the corporate work environment and the rigorous years of schooling before, the unexplainable never had any room in my mind. I never discounted that there are things that cannot be explained with a conventional reasoning, but drilled into me, starting at a young age, is the practice of backing up any and every claim with hard data. Part of me doubted parts of his story. Maybe he's just attempting to entertain me because he reports to me? My inner dialogue argued. But in the 3 to 4 years I knew Charles, he's always been genuine. All the things he told me have been backed up by photos or videos. Some of his stories did border on the ridiculous, but hey, he always pulls up a photo or a video to back up the details of his story. After a few more exchanges and topics, I decided to leave Charles to his work and left to go home after telling him I'll see him tomorrow. He waved at me as I left the same way I came in. I picked up my stuff in my office and badged out of the building. The only thing in my mind as I was getting in my car was, I have to tell them this story. Hi, Damien. Thanks for sharing your story about Charles. Hindi naman kakaiba na makaramdam ng mga hayop as what the story entailed. Hindi ba't madalas ay naririnig natin na meron silang kinakahulan or minsan nakatingin yung pusa sa isang corner. And when I see or hear stories about that, I always tell myself that maybe pets, our pets or animals are in tune with other vibrations that our human eyes can't see. So naniniwala ako na baka yung mga aso ni Charles ay dahil nga napamahal na dun kay Harvey ay nakikita siya kahit sumakabilang buhay na. And thank you for thinking of us when you got this story, when you said that you have to tell us this story. I know that you're thinking of us sharing this particular story dito sa Santelmo Society. Maraming salamat sa iyo, Damien. Magbabalik pa tayo for other stories from the campers. That and more coming up next. We're back in Santelmo Society ng Philippine Camper Stories. Ang next story naman natin ay mula kay Yanskie at ito ay koleksyon ng mga kwento niya tungkol sa kanyang buhay bilang isang fan ng paranormal. Kaya pakinggan natin si Yanskie at ang kanyang 4 short stories. Hi CM, I've been an avid listener since 2021. I'm not quite sure but I've been listening for you for years na rin. I'd like to share 4 short stories po. 2 kay Papa, yung isa kay Mama, and the other one ay galing sa high school friend ko. Tubong Bacolod po pala ako CM. Just call me Yanskie. I'll start with my Papa's story. This one happened around 1980s. Papa was probably around 7 to 8 years old noong time na yun. Yung lolo ko po, na ngayon ay wala na, ay dating isang tricycle driver. Papa shared to me that when he was young, he would join Lolo in his tricycle trips. One late afternoon at around 5 p.m., pauwi ng bahay nila galing biyahe. They passed by a large vacant open lot. Yung lote ay may mga sirang walls and staircase, kind of like a remnant of a demolished building. Nakapwesto si Papa sa likurang bahagi ng trike. His seat was positioned sideways so he was facing the lot, and that's why he could see the entire lot as they were passing by. Doon sa mismong staircase sa bakanting lote, Papa saw an old lady sitting on it, wearing what he described as a traditional brown-colored Filipiniana dress. The lady's hair was black and long, and it was covering her face. Habang sinusuklay niya ito ng dahan-dahan. At first, for Papa, as a young child with no knowledge of the paranormal world, nothing seemed wrong. But as Papa kept staring, he realized that the lady's size was unusually big. Malaking babae, hindi pangkaraniwan. When he realized that the lady is gigantic, doon na po siya nagtaka. Sino yun? At ano yun? A gigantic old lady in a brown traditional dress with long black hair covering her face, sitting on the staircase as she was calmly combing her hair. It's a picture in Papa's memory na kailanman ay hindi niya makakalimutan. It has been years, and for context, he only told me about this when I was already 23 years old. Yes, ganun katagal na, yet even after so many years, ang vivid pa rin ng pagkakadescribe ni Papa sa nakita niya. P.S. It was a vacant lot po CM, which means na walang taong nakatira doon. No one. Until now, yung lote ay bakante pa rin. And when I was in high school, I'd always pass by this lot kasi it's located right across the side gate of my school. And the staircase, it can still be seen, still standing strong and erected, like nothing has changed. It makes me wonder, ano kayang meron sa loteng yun? Ba't hanggang ngayon ay wala pa ring development? The second story naman po happened recently. I think it was after the lockdown noong kasagsagan ng COVID-19 pandemic. Papa is a COPS volunteer. I forgot what the acronym stands for, but basically it's an organization that provides additional manpower to our local police. They assign to do a wide range of tasks that are mainly security services like providing security for VIPs, securing an area for specific events, serving as security guards in government projects, and kasama na rin yung pagbibigay ng traffic enforcements during special occasions. Also, one of their smaller projects is repainting pedestrian lanes. On one occasion, kasagsagan ng COVID-19 na pandemya, they were tasked to repaint the pedestrian lane located right in front of the Negros Museum. Across the museum is a wide and somewhat forested lot, unused, full of overgrown vegetation. Encroaching on the sidewalk is a huge balete tree na kung tawagin sa amin ay lunok. Its roots are breaking out of the brick sidewalk as if it's reclaiming its territory. It's huge. Its canopy covers almost half of the entire public road, The road is around 10 to 12 meters wide, divided into two ways by a median strip. Each way has 2 lanes. All in all, the road has 4 lanes. There were only around 5 of them when they did this repainting. And before they went to the location, they made sure that they all had a paintbrush. 1:1. For every person, they brought 1 paintbrush, so that there were 5 brushes all in all. This detail in the story is important kasi CM. Kaya take note, yung paintbrush is 1:1. They started around 12 midnight. Nang sa ganun ay kakaunti na lang yung mga sasakyang dumadaan at upang hindi na masyadong istorbo sa daan. The strategy was to paint only half of each way, equivalent to 1 lane per way, so that while the other part is wet, the other half of each way remains available for vehicles to run over. Firstly, they repainted the pedestrian lane situated across the museum, the one below the huge baleta tree. Then they moved to the other side of the road along the museum's frontage. When they were done repainting the pedestrian lane along the museum's frontage, they moved back to the other side of the cross of the museum. As soon as they crossed, they noticed something strange in the first lane they repainted. Footprints of a child, barefooted. And what's more, remember I emphasized there were only 5 paintbrushes. Well, there appeared an extra one there on the road, lying, as if someone had just played with it. They all tried to make sense out of it, pero wala CM. They couldn't believe what they saw. Una sa lahat, they were certain that in the entire duration until that point in time, no one was seen passing by that area. Talagang wala. There were 5 of them working and not one of them had seen anyone roaming around the area. Secondly, kahit na ipagpalagay na may dumaan nga at sadyang hindi lang nila napansin, whoever the passerby needs to be an adult with a child kasi ang labo naman kapag wala siyang batang dala kasi nga ang footprint ng bata yung nakamarka sa repainted pedestrian lane. At malabo rin na bata lang yung dumaan without an adult. That would be scary. Thirdly, kung totoo nga na may adult na may kasamang bata ang napadaan, parang imposible pa rin na hahayaan niyang umapak yung bata sa kakapintura lang ng pedestrian. Tsaka barefooted pa. It doesn't make sense. Even if it's true, imposible pa rin na hindi man lang nila napansin kung totoong may dumaan. And lastly, saan galing yung extrang paintbrush? Bago sila umalis ni Papa, 1:1 yung pag-secure nila ng brushes. Wala ni isa sa kanila ang palihim na nagdala ng extrang brush. Also, yung paintbrush daw ay may bakas din ng pintura. Ibig sabihin, doon lang talaga ginamit yung brush. Eventually, they just made a joke about it. Gustong makisali, sabi ni Papa. The only way for it to make sense daw is to accept that it was really something out of the ordinary. At the end of the day, only a paranormal explanation can explain something that is obviously not normal. Mas lalong nakumbinsi sina Papa na isang paranormal ang pangyayaring yon when they remembered that at some time in the past, isang abortion facility pala ang nakatago sa bakanting lote niyon sa tapat ng museo. Yes, abortion facility. Now, baleta tree, 12 midnight, and a long-gone abortion facility in an abandoned lot. Sounds to me like a perfect setup for any paranormal occurrences, especially involving child footprints. This one naman po happened more recently, around 2023. Yung bahay po namin ay may 2 palapag. If I recall correctly, I think it was around 11 in the evening. My aunt and I were downstairs. My mom was upstairs and she was already headed to sleep. Christian po kami, so my mom would usually say her somewhat lengthy prayers before lying down. And so she prayed. At this time, of course, hindi namin alam ng tiyahin ko kung ano yung ginagawa ni Mama. Hindi nga namin siguro alam na matutulog na siya. We were just downstairs, each minding our own business, until we heard my mom scream. I don't recall exactly how loud she screamed, but it was certainly loud enough for me and my auntie to hear her from downstairs. So we rushed upstairs, scared of how unusual it was for my mama to scream that loud in the middle of the night. When we got to her room, there she was, seated on her bed, shaking, looking so frightened. I swear I've never seen her look like that. My initial thought upon seeing her face and remembering her scream was that was probably a ghost sighting. But no, Mama isn't sensitive. In fact, none of us in the family is. Mama was catching her breath, her eyes teary, her voice marked by fear, and I didn't like the sight of it all. Tinanong namin siya kung anong nangyari and I got goosebumps from her response. Hindi sensitive si Mama, but she said there was a presence of a smell associated with aswangs that suddenly came out of nowhere as she was fervently praying. Yung amoy na ito ay dala ng tiangao, kung tawagin sa amin. Tiangao is an insect and it smells generally associated with the presence of aswang. She didn't mind at first as she is no stranger to the smell, but as she continued praying with her eyes closed, she said she definitely felt that someone was standing right in front of her while she was praying. Even with her eyes closed, she saw a figure of a child standing in front of her about 3 feet away from where she was seated. Her heart was beating faster. She was certain someone was with her in the room, looking straight at her. Too afraid to open her eyes, she persisted in praying until the eerie feeling of someone staring at her suddenly vanished along with the smell of tiangao. She was shaking the entire time. When the eerie feeling vanished, she took the courage to open her eyes, and only then she did scream. That scream was a scream of both fear and relief. Relief that nobody was staring at her by the time she opened her eyes. The fear in Mama's eyes was something unlike other fears. It is distinguishable from what I've seen, something I myself have never experienced. The last story is a high school story I heard from a high school friend. We were grade 9, around 14 to 15 years old at that time. 5 kami sa magkakabarkada, all boys. Ball is life. Addict sa basketball. Yung friend ko na sina Jay ay nakatira sa isang napakalawak na compound. They don't own the land, they were basically caretakers of the place. Buong pamilya sila na naninirahan sa loob ng compound. May sabi-sabi na sa lawak ng compound at sa dami ng puno, maraming elemento raw ang naninirahan dito. Itong si Jay ay mahilig magtalokbong kung natutulog. Sa hindi nakakaalam, ang talokbong sa konteksto ng pagtulog is to cover your entire body including your head with a blanket. Karamihan hanggang leeg lang yung blanket, but Jay likes to cover his head as well. Yung worst experience niya is having a sleep paralysis habang nakatalokbong. Typical experience in sleep paralysis, yung parang dilat yung mga mata kahit hindi naman talaga. Of course, given na yung hindi makagalaw, kaya nga paralysis eh. But what horrifying and eerie feeling it would be to combine the inability to move inside a blanket with a consciousness of eyes open and seeing someone on top of you inside a blanket. I hope you are able to process the scenario po, CM. Nakatalokbong si Jay, he couldn't move, he thought his eyes were open because with him inside the blanket is a sighting of a man whose face is burnt, lying on top of his body. Their faces are so close to each other, their eyes were looking directly at each other. And Jay couldn't even move a single limb, all while being inside the blanket. Jay was basically trapped inside the blanket with a burnt-faced man looking straight and closely into him. This story still gives me chills every time I recall this. And even as I am typing this right now, naninindig ang balahibo ko sa buong katawan, CM. That's all po, CM. These stories may not be as scary as the previous ones, but I'm hoping na makakatulong din ito sa mga fellow campers ko na maitawid ang kanilang araw-araw na routine. Magandang araw nga pala sa inyo and thank you for listening. More power po, CM, and more campfire stories to come. Hi Yanskie, maraming salamat sa pagbahagi mo ng mga kwento ninyo. Ang dami ng kwento na pwede ng episode on its own. Siguro mag-comment na lang ako dun sa nakita ni Mommy mo while she was praying. I was wondering if nakapag-tap siya sa ibang plane because of deep meditation, like being in a prayer. Posible daw kasi yun, especially sa mga monks na nagdadasal. I don't know if that's the case sa Mommy mo. As with the sleep paralysis, nakakatakot nga yung may nakapatong na sunog na tao sa'yo. Parang pang Halloween special ang dating ng effect. Anyway, thank you for your stories, Yanskie. The next story is from Johyver. Pakinggan natin ang kwento niya tungkol sa kakaibang experience nang may narinig siyang mga multo. Magandang gabi po, Kuya Earl. Regular listener po ako and first time ko mag-share. So ko lang ikwento yung karanasan na nagpabago lahat sa akin. Kasi, Kuya Earl, bata pa lang ako, bukas na talaga ang third eye ko. Para sa akin, normal na yung nakakakita. Sanay na yung mga mata ko sa mga hindi natin kasama. Minsan, anino lang sa gilid ng mata mo, minsan malinaw na malinaw sila. Pero sa loob ng maraming panahon, para lang akong nanonood ng isang silent movie. Nakikita ko sila pero wala silang tunog. Wala silang boses. Hanggang sa isang hapon sa Taytay, may isang kaluluwa na bumasag sa katahimikan na yun. Dumalaw ako sa tita ko at pauwi na ako. Mga 5:30 na ang hapon. Paglabas ko ng gate, naramdaman ko agad yung pamilyar na lamig. Yung pag-iba ng atmosphere na senyales na may malapit. Yung langit naging kulay luma, parang orange na may halong dumi. At yung buong lugar biglang tumahimik. Sa hindi kalayuan, may nakita akong matandang lalaki na naglalakad. Sa una, Kuya Earl, hindi ko masyadong pinansin. Sabi ko lang sa isip ko, ay, isa na naman. Ganun na po ako kamanhid noon. Sanay na makakita kaya dire-diretso lang ako sa paglalakad. Pero habang papalapit ako sa kanya, napansin ko yung detalye. Yung balat niya maputla, parang waxy. Yung lakad niya walang tunog at yung mga mata niya blanco, parang butas na nakatingin sa kawalan. Normal na tanawin para sa akin. Hanggang sa nangyari yung bagay na kahit kailan hindi ko pa naranasan. Narinig ko siya. CM, yun po yung moment na halos manlambot na yung tuhod ko. Sa tinami-dami ng nakita ko sa buong buhay ko, yun ang unang beses na nakarinig ako ng boses nila. At hindi lang basta boses na narinig ng tenga ko. Isang bulong na parang galing sa loob mismo ng isip ko. Kung mamamatay ako, wag sana ngayon. Kung mamamatay ako, wag sana ngayon. Kung mamamatay ako, wag sana ngayon. Hindi ako natakot sa sinabi niya. Natakot ako dahil may sinabi siya. Biglang nag-iba lahat. Di na siya isang tahimik na imahe lang. Naging totoo siya. Ramdam ko yung bigat, yung pagod, yung paghati sa boses na yun. Paulit-ulit sa isip ko. Kung mamamatay ako, wag sana ngayon. Malapit na kami sa kanto. Yung pader kung saan kailangan naming lumiko. Kinakabahan na ako. Yung takot ko doble na. Hindi lang dahil sa nakikita ko kundi dahil sa naririnig ko. At bago siya tuluyang tumago sa pader, dahan-dahan siyang lumingon sa direksyon ko. Isang malamig na sulyap mula sa mga mata niyang walang buhay. At habang naglalaho siya sa panangin ko, yung boses niya, si M, naiwan. Umaalingaw-ngaw sa isip ko na parang sirang plaka. Malinaw na malinaw. Simula nung araw na yon, nagbago lahat. Hindi na lang paningin ang gumagana. Minsan may mga bulong na akong naririnig, mga hikbi. At doon ko nalaman na mas nakakatakot pala pag naririnig mo yung sakit at lungkot nila kaysa sa nakikita mo lang sila. Yung matanda sa taytay, siya ang unang nagbukas ng pinto na yun. Marami pang sumunod. Yun lang muna, Kuya Earl. Maraming salamat sa pagkakataon. Ingat po tayong lahat. Johyver. Grabe naman to, Johyver. Takot talaga. Basically kasi kampante ka na sa kanila kahit nakikita mo lang sila. Dahil alam mo na ganun lang sila. Naririnig mo lang. Until nagsalita si Lolo sa taytay. Nakakatakot kasi parang nawala yung shield mo at bigla kang nakikita ng mga multo. Salamat sa pagkukwento mo. Sana may mga kasunod pa. Ayan. We are now on the other segment of our show called Camper Shoutout, kung saan magbabasa tayo ng mga comments ng mga tao sa Spotify comment section. Sabi ni EJ sa episode 292, they're coming for babies. Iba talaga ang vibes basta sa mga aswang stories na more so if yung mga tipong kumakain ng tao. I don't know, parang mas dama ko yung element of dread and sense of mortality kapag ganyan mga themes, which for me is fitting talaga for great horror stories. More aswang pa CM. Please keep safe po. Ayan. Thank you, EJ. What do you mean by more aswang? Gusto pa ng mas maraming maaswang. Sabi ni Mayonnaise sa episode 290, can someone share the pin for the house? I can't find it kasi. Ayan. Replyin kita dun sa comment mo. Try kong hanapin yung pin ng house. Yona Serial? Sabi niya, episode 289. Hindi ako natakot, naiyak ako. Episode 289, Sighting of the Unknown. Ito yung sa teacher na dinalaw ng lola niya. Kakaiyak yun. Sabi ni Missy sa episode 86, while waiting for a new story in your podcast, I came back to this one. Justin's house is almost like Anton's house. Oh my. Oo nga no, tagal na rin nun, hindi natin na babalikan yan. Sabi ni Jan Christopher Placido, pump up more episodes, Earl. Sa episode 292. Galing naman sa YouTube, sabi ni Ellie, somehow I know what and how it is. Interesting. Sorry. Thanks for making description for it. Ayan, sa Anton and Manila Part 3. Yan, maraming salamat, Ellie. Shout out kay Mind of Shinigami Paranormal for always watching our episodes sa YouTube. And sabi ni Polaroid Painting JM sa isang episode natin sa 3 Filipino Horror Stories, isang paalaala. Doon ako natakot. Wow, okay. Thank you. Lay Films 12, sabi niya, CM, pa-share po ng picture. Thanks po. Ayan. I-share namin yung picture ng mga picture nung kay Manila and Anton. Sabi ni GT Soriano, Tagalogin na lang kasi ang hirap na hirap sa kaka-Ingles. Okay. Michael Dino Arreglo, sabi niya, good morning, CM. And Desbaro Christian Joseph D, gusto ko yung background super. Yan. Dax Franco, Tagalog para maintindihan. At si Ben H 4217, itagalog mo na nang walang maintindihan sa kwento mo, kinakain mo yung salita mo. Thank you po. Nabusog po ako sa salita. And that's it for the camper shoutouts. Kung gusto mo ring mabasa ang mga pang babash nyo or yung comment nyo, share some love sa Spotify comment section or sa YouTube. We also read that out. Yun, maraming salamat sa lahat mga nag-iwan ng kwento at na patuloy na nakikinig ng podcast. Dito na po nagtatapos ang ating kwento. For our campers na feeling mo ay good job ang ating podcast sa pagsama sa iyo sa mga araw-araw na gawain at naiibsan ng pagkainip mo at medyo generous ko today, you can send love and appreciation. Daanan mo lang yung PayPal account for your tips. Search earlm.work@gmail.com sa PayPal. Or sa GCash, you can find the number at our episode show notes. You can also subscribe to YouTube and TikTok. Find Philippine Camper Stories on either of those channels. Panghuli, kung may kwento ka na gusto mong ibahagi sa ating camp, ay pwede mong isend sa campfirestoriesph@gmail.com at babasahin natin yan sa mga susunod na Santelmo Society episodes. Maraming salamat po sa inyong pakikinig. Magkita tayo muli sa susunod na kwento. Ako si Earl at ito ang Santelmo Society segment ng Philippine Camper Stories.